Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we've got this slight problem where there's no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter manager of building.building. This is because this is a subclass of building, and I don't exactly know why this is required. It's a little weird. It seems to me like it should just call this constructor, but apparently it also calls the base class constructor or something along those lines. I did a little research in between episodes, and the way to fix this is simply base manager p manager, and now it'll be happy. I don't know. That's a little bit of black magic as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna guess that it just gets a little confused with the multiple constructors, but whatever. We'll just say that that's fine. So the other thing that I would like to do here, as we continue implementing owned building, is that we need to... Actually, a lot of these things here are not necessary. Right? Because a lot of these are used primarily for the owned buildings. We can save some memory by taking the vehicle storage type. Actually, that's probably needed when we select this, now that I think about it. Almost certainly, in fact. This, on the other hand, isn't necessarily needed. I think we'll just leave it as it is for now. Well, let's see if that creates an error. It did create an error. Where did it create the error? Oh, just in here. That's fine. We'll just put the progress in the owned building, like so. And then the question is, if we get rid of the vehicle capacity here, as well as the upkeep cost and the sorting and loading capacity, if we grab all of this, that creates an error, presumably here. Right, we can move that over as well, actually. So let's go ahead and put these in here. They can go in owned building. And then the on-month tick can be moved on over into owned building as well. So that's on-minute tick there. And then we'll override the on-month tick. In here, we actually don't need to override day, hour, or year tick, so we can get rid of that. Get entry cost is going to have to still be in building, as well as adjacent on road. And of course, we've got this minute tick, which is fine. That generates our packages. So we're going to need that. All of this is fine. We do need a reference to the parcel manager. Close enough to player structure. Balance. Neighbors, location, vehicle storage type. Do we actually need that? I'm willing to bet this is going to create an error from our selection. It didn't? Okay. We'll move that over as well. I would have expected that would have created an error. But whatever. We'll put that into the owned building as well. So anything else we need to move over? I think that's pretty much it. Everything else here is necessary for the non-owned buildings. So I think that's all we need to move over. And of course, owned building will have access to all of these as well. It'll just also have access to all of this. Okay. So with that being the case, then we need to... Are we actually going to have to change anything, though? Because this is a subclass of building. So when we change the prefabs in here, which we're going to do momentarily... Oh, yeah, it is creating the error. I thought it would. I was surprised that it didn't. Okay, we're going to put this back. The vehicle storage type can go right on back in there. And then in owned building, we'll just take that back out of here. I thought that would create errors, and I was honestly shocked that it wasn't. Okay, vehicle storage. And loading capacity. Right. Okay, so in that case, our capacities over here would in fact need to be in the base class. I'm not surprised by this. I was a little bit more surprised that it worked. But the compiler did end up catching it in the end. So, good for you, compiler. Okay, how about now? Are we good? We're not good. Doesn't have vehicle storage. Right. And actually all of this is expected to be in building. Okay, I guess that's fine. We'll just put that there for now. Okay. So, that was a colossal waste of time. Excellent. So let's go ahead and go into our player constructions here. We don't need to change any of these prefabs for the non-player constructed stuff. However, all we need is the building placeholder? I was under the impression... Do we construct it off of the placeholder? Hang on. When we are constructing buildings, we want to go into the building hex here. And then when we're in construction mode, demolition, here's construction. Blah, 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 we deduct that. We clean up sub-hexes. GameObject.setActiveTrue, populate buildings. We update the tooltip. So, okay. So we need to go to populate buildings. So we'll go to that implementation. Get prefab from building enum. Okay, so here's our building types here. So the question is, where does that actually come from? Is that in here? Yeah, we do put in the building placeholder, actually. Okay, let's just put this guy in here and investigate what's going on here. We put in that. Do we then attach onto there, or do we read it out of the hex? I'm wondering. Oh, hang on a moment. We just modify the building, right? So in the building hex, we want to be back in the building hex. So let's go into here, building hex. And then we just modify this building by setting the type. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I would kind of prefer to just straight up replace it. At that point, because... yeah... we could do... I don't know if this is going to break it, but we could do something along the lines of owned building equals new owned building. We'd need to pass in the time manager. So I think we've got the building hex manager here. Does that know the time manager? No. Does it know the business? No. What other hex manager does it know? It doesn't know any. Okay, we definitely... oh, we actually do know the business here. So business.time manager, and then we'd need the parcel manager. So business.parcel manager? No, the business doesn't know the parcel manager. We could make it know the parcel manager, I suppose. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It knows most everything else. So, yeah, let's do it. Public hex manager. No, not hex manager. What am I doing? Public parcel manager. Parcel manager. Okay, and then in the start... Do we not have a start? Guess not. We just do it in the prefab. Well, not really prefab, but we just do it in the inspector. At least, once it compiles. We good? Okay, we're good. So we need to go into scripts here and put it into the parcel manager. Like so. Okay, save that. And now we have access to our parcel manager. So we need to go back to our building hex. There we go. And we can create ourselves a new owned building. And then when we populate this in the first place, which I believe is done in the world hex under, or maybe in the biome hex under generate biomes? No, that's in the world hex. So in the world hex, when we create the buildings, we just do a new building, we set the location. Okay, that's something we're going to need to remember to do. So I'm just going to copy that for right now, and we're going to go back into the building hex. And we're going to say building.location equals new int3. And this is essentially... Well, this is going to be our world hex, biome hex, and building hex. So the building hex would, of course, be hex index. And then... Do we actually just have a location here? We don't appear to. We do have access to the hex manager. Okay. So the question then is, what in what way, I guess is the word I'm looking for, in what way are we going to get what biome and building hex we're in here? That's what we need. Well, the easy way to do this would just be to say building.location equals this guy right here. .location. That'd be the easiest way to do it. So we'd go into the selected world hex.biome hexes hexid.biome hex. Alternately, we could just do selected world hex hexid and then use hexid.biome hex. That said, we've also got hexid here, which is exactly what we need, actually. We can just use hexid. Like so. Okay, so we've set our building's location. And then we could do building.type equals business.selectedConstruction. Okay. And then we could just simply set this here to be equal to building. Like that. Replace that in. But first, before we do that, we want to do manager.selectedWorldHex.biome hexes hexid.biome hex.buildings hexid dot building hex, we'll just set that equal to no at this point. Okay. Well, it seems to compile. Is it going to break anything? Theoretically, it should work exactly the same way. So let's pop on in here and see. So we'll go ahead and buy this storefront. We will demolish it, and we will go ahead and construct a postal office. Seems to work just fine. Perfect. Okay, so with that being the case, we have now split that off, and we can start to implement our pickup and sorting. However, that's a job for the next episode. So I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in here, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.